صباح الخير, good morning. I'm very happy to be here representing the UN family in Jordan. And let me also start by acknowledging the tragic recent case of domestic violence in Jerash. I think it's a stark reminder, if we needed one, of what remains to be done to fully meet our individual and collective commitments to gender equality and women's empowerment. There are no shortage of commitments, and certainly as an international community, of which Jordan is very much part, as we approach the 20th anniversary next year of the Beijing Platform for Action, it is again a reminder that some of the very hard-fought gains by women around the world, including many women in this room, are being challenged. And not only does our focus need to remain on what is left to be achieved, but also in protecting those very important gains. They are being challenged, and we as the UN globally are preparing to raise these issues as part of the 20th anniversary commemoration of Beijing next year. And we very much here in Jordan look forward to doing that in partnership with you and others. But of course, it's also a wake-up reminder for those across the entire spectrum of society in their individual and institutional positions of responsibility, that we cannot afford for one moment to reduce our attention and to this issue and our investment in the issue. We would suggest that we do not have the formula wrong in terms of continuous improvements towards gender equality and women's empowerment. But we do need to keep focusing on what has been seen through numerous examples to work when addressing women's rights issues. And Dr. Salma Nims passionately and eloquently spoke about addressing social norms and behaviors and practices, and also the issue of legal reform. And of course, legal reform has to be coupled with rigorous monitoring of the effective and full implementation of those reforms. There are other issues, of course, without which progress on such issues like social norms and legal reform will not be sufficient to make the progress that's needed. Another issue is having the data and evidence available. This has to be a fact-based, evidence-based discussion, so that we, no matter which perspective we are coming from, no matter which institution we are representing, we can have objective, fact-based discussions about the issue at hand, because only with such discussions will we find or be able to design evidence-based solutions. And so it's critically important that we continue to engage with those institutions that have national responsibilities for collecting, analyzing, and making available disaggregated data. And this is something that we, as the UN family in Jordan, remain very much committed to. Another issue is the actual expertise the actual institutional capacities and systems to ensure that our focus is not individual project-based, that it is very much an issue that we have fully integrated into all of our work, from the highest levels of decision-making through to the technical experts who are charged with the responsibility of preparing proposed solutions. Gender equality and women's empowerment is a subject matter. It's a subject matter that needs to be invested in, it needs to be studied, and there are, of course, numerous ways of being able to do this. And having such institutional level commitments to the issue is vital if, again, we are to continue to make the progress that needs to be made. And then the final thing that I would suggest is critically important. This is not, of course, an exclusive list, but the final thing that I would suggest is critically important, along with those other issues, is the necessary financial investment of resources in a regular, predictable, and forward-looking manner. Because like any other issue that we are collectively trying to address, any other issue that is central to peace, prosperity, and long-term sustainable development, any other issue that is and has been decided is a national priority for whichever country that we are operating in, needs to be backed up and supported by an allocation, as I say, a predictable and forward-looking allocation of financial resources to ensure that the commitments that we make or the commitments that are made can see the light of day, can be implemented, can be monitored, can be built on, can be strengthened. And of course, like everything else, this is impossible without a sufficient allocation of financial resources. We, of course, are gathered here today this year for the 16 days campaign of activism against gender-based violence, to focus particularly on the issue of economic violence. Now, economic violence is not perhaps necessarily a form of violence against women that we are familiar with, but it certainly exists, and it's certainly harmful to the individual woman herself, but also harmful to the wider society as a whole. And I think the study that has been undertaken and which will be shared in summary form this morning will provide ample evidence to indicate that it is a very real form of violence that does need to be addressed. Let me close by once again acknowledging the leadership of the Jordanian National Commission for Women. The Commission, of course, is a key and critical national institution for advancing the country's collective priorities to gender equality and women's empowerment. And we are certainly, as the UN family in Jordan, proud and very often humbled by the often challenging work that the Secretary General, Dr. Salma Nims, and her team undertakes on a day-to-day basis. It's a critically important partnership for the UN family in Jordan, and we very much look forward to continue supporting the Commission and all partners engaged in this work on this critically important issue. Shukran. Thank you.